Drive charging.
Welcome back to Terra Neuh with Rubber Ducky,
the Knightwatchman,
and Dark Intern,
whose hair is all over the place right now.
Crazy.
The Dark Intern.
How's everyone doing?
I have been sick this week, so if my voice sounds deeper than usual, it's because of that, not for Halloween effect. I sound like Lurch from the Addams Family.
I like it. I like it. Just
I do too, actually. I wish it sounded like this all the time. All right, what are we talking about this week, ladies and gentlemen?
Well, it's Halloween week.
This is our Halloween episode. It's simple.
Halloween.
Horror movies, right? You like horror movies?
He does
The
not.
Dark
really.
Intern is not into horror movies. You're ridiculous.
Sorry.
I've always loved horror movies.
I don't know why. Yeah, I was like thinking about that earlier. I was like, why am I not into them? I think it's just because like I never watched him enough. Like, I think it's like something you just kind of like.
Do they scare you, or you're just not interested?
Well, like I've seen a couple, so I don't know if I'd be like, yeah, they're scary. I mean, kind of.
He's a scared little boy.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen a couple, but I think if I had consistently gone to more of them growing up, I'd probably be more into.
Name me 4 horror movies you've seen.
I have not seen 4 horror movies.
Name me all the horror movies you've seen.
I don't even remember. They weren't like standout ones, so they probably weren't even that scary.
I grew up on horror movies. My brother did special effects for movies and television for years, and I was always his test dummy. Whenever he needed to do some new makeup or some new something or other, we did special effects for haunted houses and for all kinds of things. So I grew up on them, and, you know, that was just a way of life around our house. We had zombies and you know, old corpses and rocking chairs sitting around our house all the time. I mean, it was because we had so many props and things that we used all the time for different projects. So I was always into them, and you know, I'm kind of picky that way because I am into horror movies. I'm picky on everything, as you found out in listening to these podcasts. You know, jump scares aren't going to get it for me. That's not going to just be enough. I'm going to want, you know, a really cool story. And my biggest problem with horror movies, it always seems like whenever these writers write a horror movie and they might have a really good idea, they just don't know how to end them. You know, they don't know what the ending should be on how we should get rid of this ghost or how we should get rid of this, you know, monster or whatever. You know, and it usually ends with some kind of sprinkling of holy water on some bones and burying it in some, you know, holy graveyard or something. I mean, you know, and that's just weak and overdone and lame. So,
is that like a thing? Do people like, are good stories like expected in horror movies? Does that define a good horror?
No.
It does for me.
There's not very many good stories in horror movies.
That's not true. There are some really good ones. Again, there's just not a whole lot.
There's not any new original good stories because you can only tell a ghost story so many times before it becomes what it is.
Yeah.
I would say that most independent filmmakers, whenever, you know, coming out of college or whatever, probably the first thing they go to is horror movies. I really think so. You know, it seems to be the simple thing. When you know, the video tape craze came out in the 80s and the, you know, blockbuster videos and all of those were out, the biggest section was always the horror section because they could do these low budget movies, you know, and they would use ketchup and, you know, chicken guts and whatever to make these, you know, grotesque type movies. So it was always, you know, the horror section was, you know, 3 sections wide versus the drama or whatever, which may only be one shelf. So,
but they're all the same story. I mean, it's always somebody killing somebody else, and everyone trying to find them, or there's a ghost or a paranormal entity that's trying to kill everybody. I mean, there's always something trying to kill everyone else.
Well, there's different kinds of horror stories. You have your ghost horror stories, and then you have your a monster, you know, or a slasher film, or some people would consider certain alien movies horror movies, you know, depending, like the original Alien movie. And I guess the original Predator would have kind of fallen into a horror movie.
Well, then let's focus.
Yes.
on slasher movies. Let's do slashers because that's what we went.
Is that your favorite?
That's my favorite. Yeah.
All right, Rubber Ducky likes slasher movies.
I like slasher movies. I like Halloween, and I actually watched a thing, Eli Roth's, what's it called? Something of Terror. It's basically like an hour-long show that he has on a network where him and Rob Zombie and someone else sit down and talk about different genres of horror.
Mm-hmm.
And this week was slashers, so I watched that, and it was really, it had, it's anywhere from Psycho to Scream and your satirical horror movies, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Jason, Freddy Krueger, all of those guys. Like that's my favorite. I guess me and him will talk about things, and then you can just kind of weigh in on how you feel.
Kind of be a moderator. The Dark Intern's going to moderate.
I'm waiting for you guys to argue.
We'll get there.
There's going to be some.
We'll get there.
Yeah. But for the most part, I love horror movies because it's different. Like it's a different story than what every other movie's trying to tell. It's not a love story. It's not an action movie. It's not trying to save the girl or save the world. It's everyone's running for their lives and just hoping they live at the end.
Yeah.
Which most people don't in most horror movies. There's always one or two, but for the most part, most horror movies, almost everyone that is a central character in the movie dies. Except for Nev Campbell.
Is that something you want to happen? Like when you go to a horror movie, do you actually want every single person to die, or do you actually want like the evil thing to die at the end?
Yeah.
Like do you second one?
I do. Yeah, I want to see the evil thing destroyed. I want to see how it's, I want to see a creative story on how this thing came about, why it's doing what it's doing, and what it is going to take to destroy it. That's what I like in storylines. And with slasher films, they can all just become the same thing a lot of times. You get the
psychopath.
Yeah, the psychopath that is just going around killing people. Nobody ever can seem to find it. It can sneak around and, it pops out of the damnedest little places when the least you expect it. In one scene you see it's 300 yards away, and then the next scene, 2 seconds later it's right up on the person. There
was a comedy that was done a couple years back. Maybe it was longer than that. I'm not sure, but it was basically like how to be a serial killer, or like how to be like a slasher killer in a movie. And it was going through all the things that you had to do, like walk really slow, but when the camera pans away, you gotta run really, really fast because you gotta catch up to them, but they don't know how you got there. And like it was just making fun of all the things that you see. Michael Myers will be slowly walking, and like this person's at a dead sprint, and they run through like 7 yards, and then like it cuts back, and Michael's like right behind them,
or in front of them somehow.
Or has cut through.
Does that make you so? When you go to a horror movie, do you sort of like suspend your disbelief a little bit more than any other type of genre that you would see? Like, does it make you mad that sometimes like people are really stupid?
Yes.
And they end up dead?
Yes.
Or
I hate that when they write the movies and the people do things, that they always make fun of, that you go down into the dark basement, don't turn the lights on or whatever, because you heard a noise down there and stuff like that. It's like there's got to be and I know they do it for suspense, but I feel like that it's sometimes lazy writing. I feel like you could get to that point without making your hero dumb. That's just the easy route. Oh, let's just make the hero dumb and just, she's going to walk down the stairs and that kind of thing. There's got to be creative ways to write. If these guys would just these writers would sit down and just think about it for a few minutes.
I was thinking about it the other day. We went to see Halloween, which we'll get to. But there was a scene in the movie where a girl walks up and says she's going to check the room. Like, kid's scared. He said he saw somebody, and she's like, okay, well, I'll go check it. And, we're all sitting there in the theater thinking, don't fucking do it. You're about to die. Like, this is how you die. But then I thought about it more. Like, that's what any of us would do. Especially since, like, she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know there's a serial killer walking around killing everybody. We do because we've been watching the movie. But she's just like, this is stupid. He's afraid of his own shadow. I'm going to go up here and show him that there's nothing in his room, and it'll be fine. But in all reality, I mean, I guess that's where I think sometimes we look at it and say, "Oh, these dumb people, they always do the same thing." But it's like they're not looking at it through the same lens we are. Yeah. So, yes, there are some people, it's like, okay, they know somebody's killing a bunch of people and they walk downstairs and they don't turn the lights on. And they got one flashlight that's been flickering for 10 minutes and they're like, oh, this stupid. I'm like, just go find some batteries first, you know?
You're making excuses. You're making excuses.
But
I'm calling bullshit.
No, but I do think that there are times in these movies when people do things that we would do. I would walk through my house with a gun. Everyone says like, oh no, don't do it. But I would. I'd probably die, but yeah. I would do the same thing in certain situations.
If the movie is like that where they don't know that anything's going on and it happens, but a lot of times in the movies they know. They already know that something's happening and they'll do something silly. In the case you're talking about in this movie, she did not. But if you remember, she went in the room and she made fun. She pretended like there was something in there killing her, and there was nothing in there. She was just teasing the kid. So, you know, they did that kind of for comedic effect.
But then she got killed
later on.
No, like within like 10 more minutes.
She had gone back downstairs, right, and then came back up.
Yeah,
and looked in the closet. And that's what was in there, which never made sense. I don't know how, you know, not to be a spoiler or anything if you haven't seen the movie, but I don't know how Michael Myers got upstairs and got into that closet. But
and he only walks too.
And he only walks.
Can he climb?
I think there's things about Michael Myers we just don't know because it seems like he has
athletic.
these super.
He's a ninja. He's studied the martial arts and he can sneak away and, you know, nobody can see him, but everybody's looking for him. See, and my point with the most recent Halloween movie, the original Halloween was great from the standpoint of nobody knew what was going on. Okay, nobody knew that there was a serial killer. It was one night. This creepy guy is going around sneaking into houses and killing people. By the time they all realized it, then there was a mass search. They found him, they shot him, he fell out the window and disappeared. Now in every Halloween since, they've all known that Michael Myers is going back to the city. He's going back to the same house. He's going to haunt the same people. And they still can never find him. They've got the whole damn police force out looking for him, and they can't find him. He can hide around trees and corners and that kind of thing, but he knows where everybody is. He knows exactly where the cops are, the girl is that he's trying to get. I can't suspend that much disbelief. The first Halloween was great. You know where I thought they were going with this new Halloween? And if they would have gone this direction, I think it would have been really cool. There was a lot of callbacks in the movie to the original movie. Like there was a scene where the Jamie Lee Curtis's granddaughter sitting in the classroom. She looks out the window and across the street, and Jamie Lee Curtis is standing there. That's almost exactly a scene from the original Halloween in 1978, where Jamie Lee Curtis was in the classroom, looked out the window, and Michael Myers was standing across the street. And they did that several times throughout the movie. They would build a scene just like in the 1978 movie to this one. And so about halfway through the movie, I thought, I wonder if this is a figment of her imagination. If this is almost like a Fight Club or almost like a Sixth Sense, to where they're leading us to believe that there is truly a Michael Myers, and there was originally, but he so fucked her up in the head back when he did what he did that she was imagining this. And I almost for a split second thought, this is going to come around to where the actual killer is Jamie Lee Curtis. That she's actually killing it, imagining everything being Michael Myers. If they would have done something like that, that would have been a pretty cool twist. Yeah. I could have probably gotten on board with that. Because then it would have made sense why nobody could find Michael Myers. Why nobody could find him. Everybody was hunting for him, looking for him, and if he was in her imagination, that's how it would be. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So for a split second in the movie, I thought, this is going to be really good. This is going to be a great twist. And then it didn't. It just ended up being regular Michael Myers, and I was like, damn. I thought I had a pretty cool idea. So they should have let me write the sequel, because I would have probably done something pretty cool like that.
I don't know. I liked it. I enjoyed it, and I think that it did give you a lot of the old Halloween feel. But I mean, where you and other colleagues of ours have argued with me about this was a good movie, this was a bad movie, whatever, I feel like we've all seen Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's expecting something. It's like what we were talking about with Star Wars. Everyone's expecting a path to go down, and everyone's got like this like one ideal like end game or whatever it is that you and others that we've talked to this week, you've all said, oh, it was a horrible movie. I can't believe you enjoyed it. And I'm like, I enjoyed it because I just enjoyed the nostalgia of it being Halloween. Like, it was a fun movie for me. I didn't expect it to get an Academy Award for being the best movie ever written. I enjoyed the nostalgia of it. I enjoyed Michael Myers coming back 40 years later, them getting rid of the other shitty ones that they made and starting over fresh. I liked the kind of fight or flight mentality you get from Jamie Lee Curtis from, okay, I know this guy's still alive. Until the day he's dead, I'm going to be prepared for it. I liked that. Yeah, it was more action-y than it was horror on her part. But the other stuff, like, you know, one of our colleagues said it was too slow at points. And I was thinking back to, like, the original movie. And it's like in the original movie, which was phenomenal. It was a great movie. But in the original movie, there were a total of like 4 or 5 people that he killed.
The movie was shorter. The original Halloween is not a very long movie. They got right into the story pretty quickly. They creeped you out with the whole, you know, this creepy guy hanging around the city, and then next thing you know, we're in the evening time when everyone's going trick or treating, and stuff got going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This movie here, it kind of, you know, they built up the whole thing with her family and her daughter and all that kind of stuff, you know, because they were kind of estranged. You know, we kind of already know where things are as far as that goes. We need to giddy up to the storyline. You know, slasher movies are just, they're all the same. That's one of the things I liked about the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, particularly the first one. Even though he's a slasher, he's still a ghost, you know, because he would haunt these kids in their nightmares, in their dreams. Part of the horror was what he was doing in the dreams, but the other part of the horror was these kids trying to keep themselves awake. Stuff they were doing, like sewing their eyes open and eating coffee grounds with a spoon. And, you know, and so it was kind of a slasher movie, but it had a little different twist to it, unlike the Friday the 13th or the Michael Myers or whatever like that. That's what Terra Neuh 1 is all about. You can come here and we all have different opinions, and that's why we have this podcast, is so that we can talk about what we like and what we don't. It's like we have...
You can even have no opinion.
Yeah, you can even have no opinion.
Well,
you can just be a moderator.
You have an opinion. You just are dumb.
Yeah.
And don't watch horror movies. But to end my rant on it, I really enjoyed Halloween too. I think we'll have another one because why not? They'll make a lot of money off of it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I look at it. I was entertained by it. I went into it with no expectation of where it was gonna go, and I feel like other people did. They had they wanted it to go somewhere, and it didn't go that way, and it upset them. I enjoyed it, and I loved it. Like, I love Halloween movies, though.
See, there's one thing here on Terra Neuh 1 that doesn't fly with me, is that if we're going to get on here and discuss movies and that kind of thing, just throwing out the old, I liked it because it was a fun popcorn movie, the thing I told you about Independence Day and the thing I'm telling you about Halloween, is that doesn't fly on Terra Neuh 1 because
Independence Day was a great...
That's fine that you like the movie and all that. The part of the debate is that you can't just say, well, it's just a fun movie.
I have a question.
Well, I don't agree with y'all telling me it was a terrible movie because that's my opinion.
No, and that's fine.
Y'all did. No, every single one of you told me it was a terrible movie because of my opinion.
We did.
Dumb.
Someone literally saw him in the morning. He hadn't even said anything. First time they saw him in the morning, they're like, I can't believe you liked that movie.
Yeah, like I couldn't just like my own fucking movie.
I'm not banging you for liking the movie. You can like whatever movies you want. That's fine.
I liked it because it reminded me of the original Halloween. Y'all said it didn't, but the first hour was all original. I mean, them walking down the street in like after school,
all very callbacks.
With it getting dark outside and kids running around. It looked like, and even they talked about what we were talking about. He says like he only killed 5 people. Like in today's standards, that's nothing.
Right.
Like it gave me that sense of like this was taken from the original one, because in the later ones they talk in like H2O and Resurrection, and then you get to Rob Zombie's 2 that he did, or 3 or whatever it was. It got away from what I remember as the original story, and you didn't have those scenes where it's like this is straight out of the original fucking movie. Like I just felt like I was back in that old one, which I didn't get to see in theaters because it was in like 1977 or...
I will agree with you. It was closer to the original than any of the other movies, and there were lots of callbacks. One of the cool things I did like about the movie was the part where the kids were walking down the street And the one kid did say, he only killed 5 people. That's really not that big of a deal. And I think that the point that the director was trying to make was a movie like this nowadays isn't as shocking as it was back in 1978, because now we have school shootings where 20, 30 people get killed at a time. So I think they were trying to say it's harder to scare audiences. And I thought that was pretty cool because, yes, you're right.
Going to the discussion of why it was a bad movie, though. The trap house, the one point in the movie where I was like, this is just fucking stupid. She's walking around with a fucking rifle instead of a shotgun or a pistol. I'm like, you've got to swing 4 feet of gun around
right.
to shoot a guy that apparently is a ninja. You had a whole armory downstairs, and this is the one you picked.
Yeah.
Was this fucking... And that's where I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? She just... of all the things, I'm going down with like 2 shotguns and pistols and like, katana on my back. Like, no, fuck. That's where I was just like, God damn.
It was very much like Terminator 2. That's what I thought. They tried to make him out to be as this unstoppable thing like the Terminator. And she was the new Sarah Connors. And I was just like, well, we did Terminator before. I'll give you that it was closer to the original Halloween than the other movies, but I don't want a rehash. I want a new movie. And it got good reviews. A lot of people, you're not the only one who liked it. A lot of people did like it. It just didn't sit well with me, and it didn't sit well with any of the other people that we went with, just Rubber Ducky.
Yeah, well, I also search in horror movies for more creative kills, which makes me probably a demented person. Mm-hmm. But I just liked some of the ways he killed people, like the shop guy that he ripped all his fucking teeth out, and then the boyfriend.
So you like the gory movies?
Yeah.
You like the gore. You want to see stuff like Hostel.
I love
that's
Hostel.
That's your speed.
Yeah.
See, that I'm not as much into that.
And then like the guy
movies.
that he like pins up on the wall with a knife,
mm-hmm.
that big ass knife. That shit was cool to me. I loved that stuff. I watched all of those movies before when you like Psycho. Going back to movies that were gory because you think they were gory, but they weren't. In fact, you never saw a blade go through skin in those movies, did you?
Nope, not in the original.
It was always like the illusion. You'd see the hand, then you'd see like the chest or the shoulder or the leg, and then like the blood. I'd
mm-hmm.
seen all those movies, and I had just gotten past that whole like. That didn't do it for me anymore. Like, that wasn't scary to me anymore. I needed to see, like, dude's head get crushed.
So it's easy to make a horror film for you.
Yeah.
You're not very picky when it comes to your horror films. You just want to see gore.
Well,
and
no. I mean, I've watched some really shitty horror movies.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are some.
Have you seen The
ones.
Forest?
There's lots of horrible movies and that kind of thing. But if you're really into that kind of stuff, if that's what you like, then stuff like this movie, you're going to enjoy them more. I'm not grossed out by those movies. I just want more than splatter porn. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? I want a good story. While we're on the subject of Halloween-themed show, movie, anything coming out right now, I cannot recommend enough, is The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix right now. It is a phenomenal, probably one of the best horror movies or TV shows that I've seen. I mean, I will enjoy American Horror Story to a point and that kind of thing. This blows that away. So well done. The story is so twisted. It's got a lot of jump scares that you're not expecting, but it also has a fantastic story about these 7 people that lived in this house and the horrors that they've had to deal with since they moved out, and how the manifestations from the house have attached themselves to each one of these people. And it hits on topics of depression, of suicide, of drug abuse in ways that have never been done from a horror standpoint. So you've not only got a great horror movie, it's just a great movie in general. I say movie, but it's not. It's a television show. It's 10 episodes. And if neither one of you have seen it, I would highly recommend it.
Which season is American Horror Story in?
8 or 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if I should go back. I watched the first season of that when I was like, it was actually good.
When you were like 6?
I was young. I was really young. But so I never knew if that was counted as horror though. Because I never really thought
it is.
It's not. I feel like that's more of
like
a drama.
It is
with horror.
That's what I thought it was. But I never knew.
And
Murder House was really good though. That's a really good season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's some comedy tied into it too, especially this season here, this Apocalypse. This season has actually been very interesting. I find that in American Horror Story, and we've talked about this before, there'll be a point in a season where, and it's usually coming up around episode 9 or 10, when all of a sudden they'll just jump the shark and something weird will happen, and it's like, man, I was really into this show, and then all of a sudden something weird happens, and I'll usually stick with it. I can't think of a season yet that I gave up, but I just felt like it was on this real strong rise, and then it hits this point, and it kind of goes back to what I opened in this podcast with, is that they just didn't know how to end it.
For
they just
example,
didn't know where they wanted to go.
Roanoke.
Yes. Oh,
Don't ever.
gosh.
One's like a made-up reality show, and then the next 6 episodes are like they all come back together as like a reunion, and it's terrible. Like you get to, I got to episode 6 and was like, this is like really good. Like I really enjoyed this, and then you get to episode 7, it's like, oh, this fucking sucks. And
That's
Freak
not
Show had really good potential.
Yes, and it did the same thing.
It did the same thing.
It
They
just
got
went,
to like
ooh.
episode 8, and it's just like, ah, crap.
I feel, you know what I feel? I feel that sometimes they push American Horror Story too long. It should probably only be 10 episodes instead of 13 or 14
6.
or whatever.
Probably do it in 6.
Right? They could probably do it, and if they just concentrate the story down, I think that they'd probably do a little bit better. But it's popular; people watch it. Walking Dead, that's a whole nother thing with me. We may have some arguments on Walking Dead because I couldn't.
We
stand
can
that
we can do a 2-part Halloween episode.
we-
We'll do another one next week.
We may have to pull off, and talk about The Walking Dead, because Walking Dead, I felt, was similar. The first season or 2 was really good, and then after that, it just got to garbage. It went to trash, and I couldn't even watch it anymore.
Really? How many seasons? They're done a lot of seasons.
I don't know. I stopped watching after season 3.5.
Not a horror movie. Wait,
I'm still
doesn't
watching
Stranger
it.
Things. It didn't come out this year at Halloween.
They did not. Yeah, they did not come out, and that's too bad because that's a really good show. It's not coming out now. There is a 3rd season coming out.
Is it going to come
but
out in
it's not now.
2018?
No, I think it's 2019. But I don't think it'll be all the way till October. I think they'll probably do it in the early part of the season.
Yeah.
And I don't know what held it up.
Well, those kids are getting so popular now. I'm sure it's kind of.
The cool thing about Stranger Things is not only the storyline, which is really good and unique and fresh, but also the callbacks to the 80s. You know, a lot of people who watch it who are
I like
my
the
age
nostalgia
love the
thing of it.
nostalgia of it.
Yep.
All right,
It's like
so let's
E.T. meets the Goonies.
let's close in on
That's kind of right.
favorite horror movie of all time.
Probably Evil Dead or Sinister.
Love me some Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Those were great. They tried to start it out serious and then got campy, but when they got campy, they really got good.
Did you see the new one? They redid Evil
Oh,
Dead.
I did not see the remake. No.
It's good. You probably won't like it because of the original one,
Mhm.
but it does take from the original one, but it's good.
It's not a comedy,
gory.
is it?
No.
They tried to make it
It's
serious.
really
See,
gory.
that's what the original, they tried to make it serious, but it was a B movie, and it ended up becoming a comedy because of it was such a bad B movie, but it was good. It was so bad it was good. And so then they made the sequel, but the sequel they actually made a dark comedy, and it was great. And then the trilogy, and they made a 3rd one.
Now they have Ash versus Evil
Ash
Dead
vs. Evil
and all
Dead,
that
which is a
stuff.
great show, and I hate that it's off the air because it was fantastic, because it followed right after the movies. It was so good. Dark Intern, do you have a favorite horror movie? I know
The
you
horror
don't have
movie
many.
I watch
Or
every
TV
day
show.
when I look at you guys.
Oh my gosh,
Oh man,
that's not even funny.
that's
All right, so what I've always noticed is kind of funny when you're younger and you see something that is horrifying. It sticks with you all your life and that kind of thing. And then when you grow up and you watch it again, you go, gosh, that really wasn't good. And that particularly was a movie called Audrey Rose. It was about a little girl who was reincarnated. And she was reincarnated after her first life. She died in a horrible fire. And it freaked me the frick out when I was a kid. But I went back and watched it recently, and I won't say it's lame and it sucks, but it wasn't nearly as scary as I remember. The second one, though, is The Exorcist.
yeah.
I saw the original Exorcist on TV, so it was edited, and it scared me the frick out. When I was older and videotapes and things came out, I actually saw the unedited theatrical release version with all of the gore and everything to it, and it was still creepy. And now, even to this day, when I watch The Exorcist, it creeps me out.
Yeah.
There's just something wicked about that movie, and they've tried to recapture the same thing as, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. It doesn't have to do with the demonic possession. It has to do with the way they filmed that movie.
Felt real.
It felt so real, felt so good. And they've just never been able to capture that again, and so The Exorcist will always live in infamy.
The Sixth Sense had some scenes in it that
It
were
messes
kind of
you
like
up.
that for me too.
Yeah.
Remember The Sixth Sense? Like, first time you saw that movie, it was fucking weird.
Yes.
Like the kid that was like throwing up in the tent.
Yep.
That did the same thing for me. Like you see that, it's like, oh, whoa! It just like popped out of nowhere. And no, I'm with you on some scenes. They just
They stick
just
with you, right?
stay, like talking about Evil Dead, the new one. She like licks the end of a razor blade,
Oh.
and it's just there. It'll never go away. I can never unsee that. All right, well that's it. We'll do this again next week. We'll do another horror movie. Maybe I'm gonna challenge you to watch a horror movie. We'll pick one. We won't say it right here, but we'll pick one today, and we'll talk about it. And we'll see if it's completely traumatized.
I'll think about it.
I like it.
All right.
Hey, if you're out there and you're listening to us, you've got an opinion. You want to tell me that I'm an asshole, or you want to tell
I do
Rubber
it every
Ducky
day.
that he's an asshole? You can email us at terraneuh1. That's TerraNeuhone@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud, YouTube. That's episode 4, and I win again.
No, he doesn't.